Before you install a new liner in your pool, there are some considerations that not everybody thinks about before they pull the trigger and have that new liner installed. And a lot of times this can really come back to haunt you. So this is something that if you're thinking about getting a new liner and you know that you're going to need a new liner for your pool, make sure that these items are addressed, because not every pool technician coming to give you an estimate is really quoting you for the same scope of work. Some people will come and they're going to do a whole bunch of different things that you as the homeowner don't even really realize that they're looking into, but they're checking to make sure it's good. Some people don't. Some people will give you a price to install a liner. They are blind to every other problem that you might have. They're there to put a liner in and to cash a check, and that's the only thing that they care about. So what you need to know as a pool owner is that before a liner gets installed, there's 3 things in particular that you need to inspect. And the first one is leaks. Does the pool have any leaks? And I'm not so worried if you have a hole in your liner. I mean, you're getting a new liner anyway. I'm more worried about plumbing leaks. Plumbing leaks are the kind of thing that can really come back to give you problems if you don't address them when the time is due. And a lot of people will say, well, the pool wasn't leaking, so it must be fine, right? Good to go. I never install a liner without doing a pressure test first. A pressure test of the plumbing system is the only way to verify that the system is in serviceable condition and is free of leaks. Any leaks in a closed-loop plumbing system is unacceptable, technically speaking. And in my world, that's the way I operate. If you're going to have a new liner put in, you have to pressure test the system first. Now, some technicians will argue, well, if you pressure test, you might introduce a leak to the system where there was no leak before. Great, now you're causing problems. And I disagree. A plumbing system like we use nowadays, like a Schedule 40 PVC, can easily hold, I think it's 330 psi is the regular operating upper limit for that, and a burst pressure of like 900 psi. If I come in and I'm testing with 5, 10, or 15 psi in the system, and I induce a leak into the plumbing system with that amount of pressure, then that's what I'm there for. That leak was ready to happen. That wasn't a perfectly good pipe and then, oh, I went and broke it with this pressure test. No, that was a for sure leak that was going to happen. How much longer do you think it would have held on under natural pressures that the system runs at anyway, which is obvious, or up to even 30 psi sometimes? That leak was going to happen eventually, and it's better that I find it now when we're there working on the pool anyway than to spend all the money, finish the pool, and then a couple months or maybe a year later you're losing water, and then you're disappointed that your pool technician didn't do a good enough job the first time around. The best thing to do, pressure test the pipes before you install a liner. I always recommend doing that. So the next thing you need to worry about, skimmers and returns. If you're going to have a problem with the skimmer on your vinyl liner pool, the last thing you want to do is have that problem a year after a new liner was installed. Because here's the problem. In a worst case scenario, let's say that skimmer's got to go. It's got a crack or a failure. It's leaking and it has to go. Most of the time, you need to install a new liner again. Even if that liner is only a year or 2 old and in theory has tons of life left in it, you can't actually switch the liner. You can't facilitate the change and line up the holes that are already in the liner with the new skimmer that goes on. Like in a hypothetical situation, I suppose it's possible, but in reality, it's really not. If I try to do that on your pool, I'm going to end up dropping debris down behind the liner, and it could put a hole in the liner, or maybe I won't do a good enough job and there's actually going to be a leak now with the new skimmer, and that's going to do you a disservice. You already are replacing one skimmer. Do you really want to install a new one and have a leak in it? The reality is that the right time to replace a skimmer is before a liner needs to be changed. So if you are installing a new liner in your pool, get out there with a magnifying glass and look at that skimmer. Is there anything that doesn't look right? And that's all we're doing as pool technicians. We're just looking too. We just maybe know where to look a little bit more than you do, which is to say, look in the throat of the skimmer and look down at the very bottom on the inside of the body of the skimmer. And those are the most likely places that you're going to have cracks develop for any one of a number of different reasons. But ultimately, if your skimmer needs to be replaced or is maybe needing to be replaced because it's really showing its age, the time to do that is before you need the liner, not right after you've installed it. Okay, the final thing you need to look at, and that not everybody looks at with a vinyl liner pool before they put in a new liner, is the coping. The coping is the track that retains the liner. It's just basically a track and the liner stuffs into there and hangs from that. It's kind of like one of these situations, then the liner hangs like that. That's what a coping track is. It's usually made out of PVC or aluminum. Those are kind of the two options that are out there. So what if you have a PVC track, but it's a little bit old already? Let's say the service life on that's 15 years and it's already 12 years old. Well, I don't want to put a new liner into that pool that might get another 10 years of life when the coping's only got maybe 3 years of life left in it. What's going to happen is that coping, if it's PVC, is just going to break. It's going to break completely, and now there's nothing to hold the liner in. So you have this new liner, but you have nothing holding it in place. So it droops down and it leaks water, and there's no really good way to fix it without installing a new coping, which, again, you kind of need to install a new liner anytime you install new coping. So if you're going to have a problem with your coping and you need to replace it, the time to do that is before the liner is installed. And, you know, that's an extra cost. Like, wouldn't the pool guy who came and gave you a quote look at that and say something to you? Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. It's not always that straightforward. Maybe your type of coping would be a real monster to change, and you know what, it's going to cost a lot of money, and he's experienced enough to know you're not going to like paying what it's going to cost to do that job properly. And you know what, he doesn't really care at the end of the day, so he just says, yeah, here's your price for a liner. He knows that coping is going to last a little while, longer than his 1-year warranty, so really what does he care? He gets your money, he's gone. 3 years later, your coping's failed completely and you need another new liner, and that's a bad situation to be in. And I mentioned before that there's PVC and aluminum. Aluminum's a little more forgiving. Like, if I had the choice between the two, I'm taking aluminum coping 10 times out of 10 over PVC, because it's just got a much longer service life. It's you can work with it. If it bends or stretches, you can kind of bend it back into place, and obviously the aluminum will just last much longer than PVC does. It is more money, but in my mind, that's a good investment. If I have to think about an upgrade, is that worth the extra money? Aluminum coping versus PVC coping, 100% in my mind is worth the money. So those three things, before you get a new liner installed in your pool, make sure that you're looking at those three items to ensure that you're protecting your investment and you're not going to get into a bad situation a couple years down the road. If this information was helpful to you, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.